because I was 18, and I was going to take immediate induction because I wanted the GI Bill, but I was turned down for something that I've lived with all my life. And okay, so then I was in Philadelphia. I would work on the farm with my father June, July, and about the last of July of when I was because I went to Virginia State College a couple of years, about the last week in July, I would leave and go to Philadelphia. My sister was living in Bryn Mawr, with an aunt. And I would go up there and work 1 or 2 jobs for 2-3 weeks and then come home. And I was walking down the street with a kind of cousin, and we walked past a Marine place, John the Marines, and he says, I'm going in and join up. He had been in the Navy and gotten out. And I said, okay. I walked in, I passed, and he didn't. So now I'm in the Marine Corps, which was all right with me because I wanted a GI Bill. Well, I left from Philadelphia. During that time, they had just, I don't know how old it was, but it has come about, and you possibly have read about this historically, intrastate and interstate transportation. Mm-hmm. Okay, now, I know this, I didn't experience it on the bus because but on the train, when I left Philadelphia, going to the Marine Corps, which was, I was going to Jacksonville, North Carolina, I had a sleeper berth, and it was under a white lady that was going home to get married. She was at the top, I was at the bottom, because Philadelphia, leaving from Philadelphia and going to North Carolina would be interstate. Mm-hmm. Once I got to in North Carolina, then when we got off, we went to a station where we went, and the only way to get food was to get it through a window. You go up around the back of the place and get your sandwich through the window. And then, of course, the people from the Marine Corps picked us up from there.
So here you were going to the Marine Corps to serve your country, yeah. And you were being treated...
Well, it was standard. So if you were black, you were going to that window to get your food, or you didn't get it.
Mm-hmm. So when you got to, the Marine Corps picks you up, so then you go to the camp. So what happens then?
Well, when you go to camp, Marine Corps, everybody that went to Marine Corps in that early party, because I went in 46, and I think some people went in like 41, 42, mm-hmm. So they must have had a record, but you had a name, everybody had the same name, Skinny Head, and they skinned your head. And of course, anybody with the emblem, the Marine Corps emblem, if you wore your cap while you were in boot camp, you didn't have an emblem. The emblem signified that you had done boot. So you saluted everybody with an emblem, good training. And the boot camp was real tough. Well, it was pretty rigorous.
Now, it was segregated, correct?
Oh yeah, Mumford Point, yeah. Mumford Point was where the black troops trained.
And where did the white troops train?
I don't know where they were training at that time.
Okay. But the blacks were at Mumford Point.
We're at Mumford Point. Now, Mumford Point is a part of Camp Lejeune. You knew that, didn't you? Mm-hmm. They got Mumford Point, had Knot Point, something else. I used to know all them points.
Now, were your training officers white or black?
Black. Okay. All my training officers were black. I think the first ones were white, but mine were black. See, they had been in there 2 or 3 years. I don't know when. I did know when the first Marines went in, but it was something that Roosevelt signed the order. But I didn't know it was. I don't know if it was 41, 42. It was one of those years. Mm-hmm.
So after you finished boot camp, where do you go?
After I finished boot camp, I was assigned to, at that time in that part of the country, the Marine Corps had 3 anti-aircraft outfits. First, second, and third, and we were the 3rd AAA, so I was assigned to an anti-aircraft outfit.
Where was?
Training was at Mumford Point.
But then where was the 3rd?
I was the third.
Okay,
We were, that's it, they call us third AAA.
okay. What part of the world was that, were you assigned to?
Right there, on the
Oh,
camp.
on camp.
It was training,
Okay.
it was training.
So did you ever go into battle?
No, because I only stayed in a few months and the war had gotten, you know, I went in as the war was actually ending.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
In fact, the reason that I only spent 9 months in there is that they were letting people out for the convenience of the government. And I had signed to go to school for a third year, and I said, I'm gonna be stuck here for 3 years. And they did away with our outfit, they did away with AAA, they disbanded. And for a while, and the guys with me, I guess, did something else, but for a while, we were just like a provisional company and a work detail. So when I got a chance to get out the first time, I turned it down. The next time they came by asking for people, I took it. And of course, I had only 9 months and 13 days, but I'd completed the basic training. I'd completed the boot training.
So you had told me too over the phone when we talked that they were training you on anti-aircraft guns, and all of a sudden they're gonna just make you do work detail.
Well, because the outfit was disbanded. They didn't need it no more.
Okay,
You follow me?
right.
Once they decided these orders and everything, and the war is draining down. See, this is really, World War II was just about over.
Okay.
They just hadn't declared it as being over. But it was really over, and they went back and looked at some date in 45. I think they've said quitting. They raised the date.
Mm-hmm.
But the war was over.
Mm-hmm.
But they hadn't got a chance to. And so they didn't need us. They weren't going to need that anti-aircraft outfit. I don't think they closed it down because it was, because I don't think they did that because it was a black outfit. I think they just were sizing down.
Okay. So when you were on the camp, it was a segregated boot camp. Did you ever go outside into the
yes.
community?
Oh,
What was
yes.
that like?
The same thing, you had segregation. It was segregation in 46. Wherever you went in the South, it was segregation in 46.
I've heard a lot of
On the buses, on the trains, and the restaurants, there was no integration. In fact, there was no integration for what, mid-50s, even here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just about the same. It was mid-50s, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Well, 65.
Because mid-60s. Because when I first came here in 59, there were some restaurants out on Route 29 that had on their front door, white only. And they weren't playing about it. So, you know.
Did anybody, I've heard rumors that a lot of the World War II soldiers that were black, they were harassed because they had their uniforms on when they were in the South. Did you ever have problems with that?
No, I didn't. I was in there, and then when I went back in the Army, when I got back in the Army, I had to go back, and when I went in the Army, I stayed on base mostly. But when I was down there in the Marine Corps, we went out Friday, Saturday night, but I always went out with a group, unless I was going home or something. And I never really ran into maybe it was just my luck.
Mm-hmm.
I never ran into any real trouble.
Okay.
But then I wasn't doing anything. The only time I left the base was either on a Friday or Saturday night, and we went with a group. Or if they bussed us over to one of the colleges, the colleges nearby then, girl students, they would take soldiers in like a Friday night for a dance or Saturday night.
Mm-hmm.
And I might have gone on one of them.
Mm-hmm.
But you're with a group, then you're sort of protected.
So what year did you enlist in the Army?
I didn't enlist. Oh yeah, okay. What happened to me then was that after I'd gone to school and was doing my apprenticeship and about to get my film service license, the Korean conflict came up. So when the Korean conflict came up, I thought, hey, I don't have to go. In fact, the lady who was, because in the country where I was, everybody knew everybody. Miss Stevens was the person at the draft board, and when she sent me the first letter, I went back to her and I said, she knew me because I used to go past her house going to the country store, going to a store, wouldn't call a country store. And I knew her. I knew her brother. I mean, her brother that was in the produce business and all. And so when I went up there and I said, Miss Stevenson, I've been in service. She just said to me, she says, Bernard, because she knew me, she says, I was expecting you to come. And she had the book all open. And what the regulation said was that if you were in the service between some date in 1945 and some date in 1948, I guess it was, that you were required to have 12 months service to be exempted from the draft. And I had had 9 months and 13 days. So I was subject to the draft. So I was drafted and I went in the Army and spent 2 years. Went on to Korea. I was in grades registration because I was just about to finish my training in this. And so they naturally put me eventually in grades registration.
So let's go back to your training. So what training you went to mortician school?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about that. Where did you go?
I went to Echoes in Philadelphia.
What year was that?
Because I started in 1947, ended 48. It was 1 year course, but you were in school all day, 5 days a week.
And was this a segregated school that you
No,
went
that's
to?
not segregated. It wasn't segregated.
Okay.
Philadelphia wasn't segregated at the time, not officially. Of course, you had the thing going there because we had Southern, you had some, I think the one thing, maybe I can mention this, the one thing was when they posted the grades after the first 6 weeks, that was a fellow named, very, very nice gentleman named